All is well. Is all well, Chuck. We begin with the Proteas, and that's a relevant question, right? Where we lost the series to Afghanistan 2-1, came through with a victory, I suppose, for pride, as we tend to do, or as it is said in that last match. But throughout that series, struggles for the batting lineup. What needs to be done here?
Man, I don't know what the actual quick fix solution is, or rather, do I have a direct solution for it? I don't know. But I remember when we were speaking to one of our friends, saying that the Proteas need to take responsibility for their wicket. You can't be on some, oh, that was a good ball, there was nothing I can do about it, because batsmen can go and get a decent innings. When you look at Uvian Mulder, he faced like more than 60 balls, which means you can stay in the game and play your shots. This is in the first game. But the fact that we only scored 170 in our only win on tour, but then we struggle to crack that number beyond that when we're batting first, that is a concern for me. So I think sometimes when we approach, I think the game a bit too timid. Rightfully so if the bowlers are bowling well, right? But I think also we need to assert ourselves sometimes, because if you look at the number of boundaries that they're hitting on the other side, Afghanistan didn't care who was bowling to them, whether Ongiti, whether Nokia or whoever. Well, Nokia wasn't playing, but whoever is bowling, they're smacking them for 6 and 4s, and you're like, this is a different type of innings in terms of how it's been played. So I think we need to be fearless when we're supposed to. I think obviously sports is a matter of moments. When the moment is right, assert dominance, and if not, then protect your wicket. So I don't know if we're in the right headspace, because wickets, our top order fails way too often. Is it a matter of we need Abu Klassen, Abu Miller, Abu Van der Dissen? I think we should be able to move on from that bunch and still be decent, because we're playing against Afghanistan. Yes, they've beaten a lot of the test playing nations. In fact, they probably have beaten all of them but India, if I'm not mistaken. Granted, I get that. That's a fact. But let's put up a decent display at least. We survived that one. Or at least we won something. A consolation victory against Afghanistan. Yes, we're playing away from home, but come on, guys, put 250 on the board.
So disrespectful, Chuck. So disrespectful to the Afghans. Like, as you keep repeating, like, it's just Afghanistan. They've improved. They've come on in leaps and bounds. And yes, this was a one-day international series, but we saw them in the semi-finals of a T20 World Cup, and they claimed some good scouts, including Australia for the first time. As you put up, the only team that's missing from their ledger is India at the moment, who they did tie against. So it's a much improved side. You were speaking about how Afghanistan were knocking out bowlers all over the park. Gubaz was the chief destroyer in that, and he's quite a talent, you know. And I mean, you still have the spinners who make them a very good team. But in terms of the Proteas, what needs to be done? Chuck, I don't know if actually we can do something, because I was watching the series and I was thinking to myself, is it possible that we have delved into the realms of post-1980, maybe 1990 West Indies, where in the 70s and 80s, absolute powerhouse, perhaps the greatest team ever seen, you know? And then in the 90s, you still had Courtney Walsh and Brian Lara and the likes, you know, but they weren't still that team of Joe Gardner, Malcolm Marshall, Michael Holding, Vivian Richards. It wasn't an all-time great West Indies team. Vintage Proteas, like we know, towards the turn of the century, and that the side of it, we were absolutely on top of the world. You know, should have won the 99 World Cup, were favorites for that. All the way to the team of Smith, Callis,
Hash.
Yes, Hashim Amla, Jacques. I already said Jacques Callis. That's how much I love him, because he was two players. Staying like exactly, and all the way now to where we had UKG forming the last bits of that vintage. And I look around, and you look at this series and some of the batsmen in particular who came into this, and the all-rounders, we drafted in guys who are approaching or at 30 to create depth. That tells me that there's a whole generation that's lost of what's supposed to be good to great Proteas players, particularly the batsmen. And yes, we are relying on your Klassens and your Millers, you know, and even people who are supposed to be the bedrock of our batting, like Makram. Makram is approaching 30, and we're still waiting for him to blossom into exactly what we think he is, or what we hope he is. And that privilege that has carried him to continue just making appearances and not copping any flack from the South African fans, because it's Markram and his immense talent. But I think, Chuck, if anything, the structures at franchise cricket need to tighten up. They need to be made better. Maybe we need to introduce relegation once again, where we make sure we're funneling the strong players, the strong sides to the absolute top, and that there are consequences for not playing well.
Yeah.
And I think the generation of your Brevis, your Stubbs, your Britske, those guys need to step up. And there needs to be a clear path when they go into the SAA, because they need to perform when they're in the SAA side as well. Because recently against Sri Lanka A, that didn't look good either. So there's work that needs to be done. I have a fear that there's no amount of work that might fix the conveyor belt, which may be broken indefinitely. Because as I'm saying, I don't know, maybe I'm a prophet of doom, but like I've seen this with the West Indies,
Yeah.
but I've not really seen it with any other previously great side where then they've been at the bottom of the rankings. I hope that's not what's happening with the Proteas, but yeah, my solutions is the new generation of talent. They need to step up Cricket South Africa in how they aid that talent to get to the very top at one-day international level, T20 international level, test level. They also need to step up, because otherwise we're going to cry.
I mean, Ireland is next. So I think we need to win at least that series, because these are the lower ranking sides. And if we don't, then we probably are headed towards where you suggest we could be in terms of that lull, in terms of our form and our actual impact on the game as being a world class side. So I hope even at least we tick that box. Then it's okay, Sizamila. But let's see if our batting woes can be fixed.